So here's something I started a little while ago, and that was working on this right hand rear door, and you can see that it's got some rust holes right in the bottom corner there, as did the left hand rear door. The left hand rear door had a fairly large rust hole, and that ended up being quite a bit of work, where I replaced a patch about this sort of size and had to remanufacture some parts inside the door itself. So I'm really hoping this isn't going to be quite that bad, but here we go. Let's cut it open and see what it looks like on the inside. So I've got my patch piece over the top here, and all I've done is I've just clamped it down onto the metal that I'm going to be cutting out, so I haven't actually cut anything yet. I'm just using the existing metal on the door as the mould for the patch, so I can get that curve that's in it. It's only very slight, but easier to do now than try and bend it into shape when I put it in. Now I've already ground the edges down, and I've peeled back the lip just around here that wrapped this part of the door skin around the back section of the door here. So hopefully it's just a matter now of prying this panel out. And there we go. So this isn't probably quite as bad as what the left-hand rear door was, but I'm still going to have to make a whole another section here. Okay, so just having a good look inside that door. It's got a bit of surface rust in there. It looks like the worst part is obviously these corners right here. So next step is to really clean all this up, and probably do a bit of spot welding in there where that small hole is there, but I've got to make that whole outer brace, which is the inner frame of the door, before I can put my patch panel over the top of that. So again, it's not quite as bad as what the left-hand rear door was. The left-hand rear door I had to pretty much make this whole section here, so this one I'll probably get away with making less. Okay, so first up, before I start cutting anything out or doing anything else, I've got to recreate this section here of the back frame of the door. So I'll just get a piece of paper over here. And just crease that, so I've got my lines. So this will give me my basic shape of what I need to cut out here, and how much metal I need, and so on. So first I'll cut that out. Okay, so there it is. That's pretty much the shape of steel that I need. So once again, I'm only doing this outer face here. This part here I can just do some patching up in there and fix that, but this will all be remade. So I've gone from this paper template to the real thing, this little patch panel here, and this sits perfectly as that replacement frame inside the door. So all I could do now is just knock back some paint here, so I've got something to weld against. So I've cut that outer lip off, so that's all that rusty area is completely gone. I've got a bit of patchwork to do in here with the MIG, which I'll fix up. Next step is to put this piece in its position. Tack weld that in first. So that's all the welding complete. This is now in its place. I'm just going to knock down these welds and flatten that off. Okay, next step now from here is to clean this up a little bit better and put some rust converter in here. Some of these areas here are still a little bit scaled up, so I'd rather treat that now. This thing doesn't have to look too pretty. Once the patch panel's over here, this will never be exposed again, so I'm not too worried about leaving this like this. But I will put a coat of primer inside here, and both sides of the patch panel and this piece here as well. Now just apply this rust converter in here and really try and coat all this up, and then I'll leave this sit like this for 24 hours and really let that cure in there. So I've just turned the door over, and what I'm going to do now is, this is the area where I've been working. I've just cleaned the back side of it, and I'm just going to put a nice weld all the way down here. I don't have to worry too much about warpage here. This is fairly solid all around this area here. Okay, so the rear side of this door, or the flip side, has been welded as well. I welded all that through there where that little frame that I stuck on goes, and it's been cleaned up. So this will have to end up getting primed as well. And now I'm just going to work on the actual patch piece, which is this here. I've got to clean the surface rust off that, of course. And then the next thing will be to just put some light cuts into this line here that I've marked out, which is the arch of the door back here. So I'm not going to cut through. I'm just going to put a little track in there, or a bit of a groove, so that I can easily bend this forward the other way when I have to pin it around the actual frame itself. Okay, so I'm just going to put my patch back over the top now, and what I'm going to do here is just remark or recheck these lines where I need to put a groove into, so I can fold this under. So I've just got to make sure that I allow enough of a gap around the top and sides there for welding. Just hold that in place there. Okay, so there's the arch around the back of this door, and there's my fold line that's going to go back under this way. So now what I've got to do is extend this line out. Okay, and make this about the same sort of distance. Okay, so there's my extended line for the arch. So this is where I'm going to cut around here, and this is where I'll put a groove across this one and across this one here, so I can fold those over easily when I need to fit it onto the actual door. So that's it. I've got my basic tracks cut out in there. So this will be able to, or be easier to fold this over now when I wrap this around the door. Just put a little split line in there. I'm going to have to fold this side separate to this. So I'm just going to trim it up now, clean it up, paint it up, and put it on. Okay, so we've gone from that to this. So I've started to paint it over already. That's the purpose of those grooves that I put in behind there. Just made it so much easier to do. I'm not going to go all the way until it's actually on the door properly, but that's come up pretty well. So I've just DA sanded this with 80 grit before I paint it over. Now I've just got to clean it all off and put this in primer, as well as the inside frame of the door here. The coat of X primer first. And the same treatment on the inside of the door frame. So the final stage here is just to put some high build primer inside this door frame here just to protect it. And the same for the inside of the patch here for the door. So I'm not going to do the outside because I've still got to strip the paint off the actual outside of the door, so that'd be a waste of time, but just I'll do the inside. So the next process now is to put the patch panel on the door and spot weld it in its place. The critical part here is obviously to get this patch panel even with the door. So I'm going to start off by making sure that this top edge here is even. This is where I'm going to start spot welding. So this is where I'm going to start. Because I've put these fold lines in here already, they've already located themselves up against the frame. So here we go. So there's the sides just getting tack welded in place, and now it's just a matter of slowly running down and filling up those gaps, and this patch will be permanently part of this door. So there it is, that panel is now pretty much in place. There's just a few spots there that have got holes that I can see through the welding, so I've just got to fill in a couple of spots there. Then I'll turn this door around and pin this over. So this is the door turned over, this is the flip side of it. So now it's just a matter of putting some primer in here, these areas here, and folding this lip back over, and this patch is pretty much in place. Okay, so now I'm going to pin this over. So the patch is now on, it's all been pinned over around the back here, around this side and down the bottom. So it's gone in there quite nicely. So what I'll end up doing when I go to respray this door is I'll put some seam sealer in here to make sure water doesn't get into those areas like it did before originally. So there's a test fit of the door with that patch panel in place, and the gap's pretty even around that bottom arch. The door's still got to be lined up, of course, it's only hanging on by 2 screws. But in adjusting this door and just getting it on, I just knocked this rocker panel here, which I already knew was rusty, but just to give you some idea of how bad this is, this just caved in very easily. So I thought I was going to get away with maybe just patching up the rocker panels, but I've got a feeling I'm going to have to replace the rocker panels most probably on both sides. So that's the video on replacing this corner section of this door here, this right hand rear door. So I started off with having to remanufacture the frame that went under the skin. This is only part of it here, but whole frame across the side here, and of course replacing the corner piece that was on the door. So while the video probably only comes to about 13-14 minutes, this was pretty much 2 days work, and it's still not finished. I've still got to put body filler on here and fix all this up, but before I do that I'm going to strip the door down of paint, and there's more sections over here to repair. You can see that scaled up rust here. This is where the chrome trims come across the side of the door here, and you can see the profile of the metal that I've got to remake here. So I've got to cut this out and put some new steel in this section here, and then once that's done, then I've got to strip down the front. That will be 4 doors pretty much done.